Yo guys, thanks for tuning in. My name's Eternize and today I'm gonna teach you how to make crazy mid-intro kicks in the style of Sub-Zero Project. Let's jump straight into it. So first we're going to demo the kicks and then we're gonna go over each individual layer after and do some explaining. And there's going to be a lot of explaining, so grab a snack, grab a drink and enjoy this episode. Here's the demo. Hold on to your hats. Yeah, so you can imagine with the right build-up and a couple of kick rolls in there, these kicks are going to be absolutely nasty in a track. So the first layer is the punch, and for this I've used Silent 1. Without any effects, this is just a sappy, high-pitched club kick. For the effects, we start with a distortion. This is to create some harmonic content to work with later down the chain. The settings of the distortion is not really important. I want to show you the principles of the sound design rather than just the settings, so that you can go on and apply this in your own projects. The next plugin is an EQ with a peak in the high mids, and this is the EQ that is going to determine the tone of the punch. So in this case we're going for this screamy high-pitched sound, where normally you'd probably have this hovering around more of the mid-frequencies. Next plugin is another distortion, and the role of this insert is to amplify the EQ peak that we just made. So we can hear that the punch is now beginning to have a tone, again depending on that EQ peak, as well as becoming more distorted. And at this point the tail is also quite audible, which might distract us from what we're really interested in here, which is the punch. So a good idea would actually be to go down a couple of slots and insert a volume shaper. And with this volume shaper we cut away everything but the initial part of the sound that we need. Now, with a much better focus on the punch alone, we can go back in the chain and continue to shape the sound. The next plugin is another distortion. And this is just distorting it a little more, bringing in some brightness and some clarity. At this point we are done with the distortion part. More distortion will not have a positive impact on the sound of the punch, and from here on out it's more about shaping the sonic content of this layer. Next plugin is an EQ, which takes away all of the low frequencies, because we have a separate layer that is going to fill in sort of the lower frequencies of the punch. The next couple of plugins are just controlling the dynamics and doing some final touches on the EQ. Next layer is a reverse reverb. In all of its simplicity, it's a rendered copy of the punch. Then I've added a reverb on 100% wet. Then I have saturated the signal with a saturation plugin. Then I shape the sound with a volume shaper. And then I've EQ'd the sound to fit the rest of the kick. The next layer, called the tone, more or less has the same setup as the previous one, meaning a copy of the punch and then the same reverb and so on. But one key difference is that this is routed differently from the two other layers. This layer is routed through bus 1, and bus 1 is actually the bus where the tail is also routed through. This means that when the two sounds are combined, the sound will change, and so the sound that you're hearing right now, when this is soloed, is not the final sound. I'll talk about this in a bit. Next layer is the tail, with some minor processing on it, some EQ and compression, but the more important part is again that it's routed through bus 1. Last layer is another punch layer, and this is the one responsible for the click and the bottom end of the punch. It's made with kick 2, and it's nothing more than a regular club type of kick with some clever processing added onto it. First plugin is a simple gain plugin that smashes the audio into the ceiling. Frankly, you could do the same with a distortion here. Next plugin is a volume shaper, and this is what really shapes the sound, going from an over-distorted club kick to a clicky sub-punch that fits the kick. For the second kick I demonstrated, really not a lot has changed. Remember what I said in the beginning about the first EQ in the chain being the one that really defines the sound of the punch? Well, that's the only thing that has changed here. Different EQ settings gives a different kick. And of course I've rendered this version of the punch and pasted it onto the next layers so that the reverse reverb and the tone is going to match the punch. Right, onto that tail and to the routing to bus 1. As you can see on bus 1 we have a lot going on, but the most important thing to understand is that this has a distortion on it, and because of that everything that goes into this bus will be distorted together. So in this case we have this sound with a lot of high frequencies in it, and then we have this sound with a lot of low frequencies in it. And on their own they do not sound very interesting at all, but when we combine them under a distortion, it results in a very gritty and crunchy texture that sounds really great on kicktails. After the distortion we do the usual volume shaping, EQing and dynamic controlling. Let's review both of the kicks one last time with everything combined. Let me know if this method is something you want to try out, and if you do, make sure you tag me on my socials. I'd love to see the results you guys are getting. So guys, if this helped you out and you want to support me, the best way you can do that is by checking out my preset and sample packs, link in the description. Also liking the video, commenting and subscribing helps a lot. Thanks. I'll see you soon. Bye.